I'm so excited to be today with Frances. She owns a bookkeeping practice and she will help you today to manage your finance and to make finance less scary. I met Frances inside of a mastermind and she really impressed me with her own unique way of teaching finance in a way that feels funny and less scary and takes the pressure off entrepreneurs that you need to make it perfect. You need like numbers like are scaring you and all those dark things about bookkeeping. So she is with us today. I'm really excited. So welcome, Frances. Tell us a little bit more about your practice and how will you help our listeners today to manage their finances.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Um, like Andrea just said, I'm Frances. I own a bookkeeping practice, and I started it a year and a half ago already. It's actually been a little longer than that. And I saw at the beginning that it was really something that was missing in the space of entrepreneurship was business owners understanding their finances. But the reason they weren't understanding it is because they were afraid to. They were afraid to kind
Mhm.
of get in there and see what was happening. They were afraid to write down what they were spending because they were like, "Ugh, I'm spending too much. I don't really want to know." And I saw that a lot. And so it really was something that I kind of just got this internal just motivation to kind of go out there and help other entrepreneurs to not be so afraid of it. Because really, once you get going and you kind of understand what you're doing, it's not that scary. And
Mhm.
it's an important part of business because we're all in business to make money. So if you don't know
Yeah.
what your money's doing, that's kind of defeating the whole purpose of the business.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
that's a little bit about what I do and how I kind of sit down with these entrepreneurs, and whether it's that they want me to do the bookkeeping for them, if that's what they want, that's completely fine with me. But I guide them through what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Let's look at the reports together. Let's go over things together. And I've had people say, "Hey, I'm not quite ready to hire anybody yet, but I want to learn how to do it correctly on my own." And
Mm.
that's fine too. I can sit down with 5 or 6 sessions and teach an entrepreneur how to do it so that they're doing it correctly and on their own time.
Cool. That's so nice that you offer both like services of assistance and also teaching people how to do on their own. This is like more for independent women who wants to learn it all by themselves. And I love what you said earlier about avoiding finances because it feels scary. Like one of the most common subconscious beliefs that I found in my practice in working with women entrepreneurs, it was this cycle of anxiety towards money, like I'm afraid to look at money, and then when I'm looking, like I either want to avoid them, not looking into my bank account where I get scared and overthinking my financial situation. And this is because underneath it all it was this belief of numbers are scary, or I'm not good at math, things that we learn in school, like conditioning that comes from our teachers, and this influence like how we make money in our business. How amazing is that in a way, and how counterintuitive is at the same time. So I love that you said that.
I love that you just said that because I talk to people about that all the time about how your business finances is not ninth grade algebra. Like, you need to
Mhm.
separate the two. People always tell me, "Oh, I'm not good at math." And I'm like, that's not an excuse. You have a
Mhm.
calculator in your pocket, first of all. Like, you have literally
Yeah.
a calculator with you at all times. So I don't want to hear that. This is not ninth grade math. This is your livelihood. And there's is such a stigma with math from schooling that people are just so afraid that they're going to do the problem wrong or that they're going to get a bad grade, but nobody's grading you. Nobody is going to sit down and say, "Oh, you have to solve for X." Like, there's none of that. Well, I do a little bit of solving for X. I'm not going to lie, I do. Um, but it's your business, it's your livelihood, it's what you've worked for, it's sustaining your dreams. and the life that you want and how you want it to come about to fruition. And we need to separate those two ideas that, first of all, anybody can be good at math. You just have to practice,
Mhm.
and nobody's going to grade you on it. You just have to separate the two. They're not the same.
Yes, yes. Congrats for including this part more of a like a mindset work also in your practice, and you don't separate the both, because we need, in order to work with money, we also need the psychological and the practical day by day, like calculating and the things. But we may have some unconscious things from our childhood, like somewhere along the way your teacher told you that you're not good at math, maybe because you
Mhm.
are more like good at literature, so you like transfer that in your business right now, and it's just you facing that block and seeing that it was just your like teacher's opinion, and understanding that you have a phone with a lot of apps that can help you like manage your
Yes,
finances in a really easy way, and that was just a subconscious block keeping you.
absolutely. It's so many things are automated nowadays. And honestly, looking at your finances doesn't involve that much math. Like, it's really not sitting there adding numbers together. You're more looking at the patterns and the picture that it provides you, not so much the, you know, I made $1,000 plus another $500 is $1,500. Like, no, the programs will add the numbers for you. You just have to learn to understand what the numbers are telling you. It's like
Mhm.
reading a book in a different language. You just have to understand the language that you're reading.
So, in a practical way, for someone that doesn't like just start with now with its business with bookkeeping, this means like, for example, if you received like if you had a really high week and then a month without any new clients and any
Mhm.
new money, and then another high week, then this is your pattern, your financial
Mhm.
pattern of having high peaks and then high lows, and then your strategy should be of like storing that money and managing them, so you will have enough money for the month that you don't make money, right?
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So a great example of that is my own business, for example. With bookkeeping, I have my clients and I get paid on the first of the month. And then I don't make any more money until the next first of the month. So I have to make sure that the money that I make is going to last until the next. And I tell my clients that, some businesses, you have an influx of cash all month long. Every single day you're making money. And that's awesome. But some businesses don't work that way. If you're a service-based business, more than likely you're going to get a chunk of money at one time and then provide the service and then probably not get another chunk of money again for a little bit. And that can be really scary sometimes because you start to panic like, "Oh my god, I haven't made money in 2 weeks or 3 weeks," whatever it may be. But when you learn that that is your pattern and that is the way that your money flows, the panic goes away and that anxiety is reduced, which is another thing. Understanding your finances and what your numbers are telling you reduces anxiety like a ton because you're not worrying about it anymore. Does that
I love that. And um, what can someone do? Like, how can someone manage their money for the time that they will not receive money? Like, do you recommend like splitting them per weeks, or having like installing an app for them to add them their expenses and their income? What are some practical ways that they can manage this high and lows?
So, what I love to tell everybody that I work with is to do something called cash forecasting. And what that is basically on a sheet of paper or on an Excel document, whatever it may be, I prefer to do it in an Excel document, is to write out how much money you expect to make for each month of the rest of the year. And you can do it up to an entire year. You can project that far ahead. So let's say you usually have kind of a low month in June, but you know that it picks back up in like October, November. So let's say in June, just to use an example, $100. But then November and December are $1,000 each of them. Write it down so you can, first of all, see it. Second of
Mm,
all, you know that, okay, I have this many expenses. Maybe you have more expenses than you bring in money in June, but you see that because you've carried over money throughout the previous months, um, you'll see that you have enough to cover your expenses. And so I always say just use a cash projector. And I have a free template that you can link below if you want to for anybody that wants it. Um,
thank you.
no problem. It's seeing what your money is doing in front of you makes all the difference in the world. And it helps
Mhm,
with those low cash months. And it helps to know that, okay, well, money is coming, and not to panic. Because I see that
mhm.
a lot. People panic and they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't, like we just said, I haven't made money. But when you put it out, laid out like that for a year at a time, you can see, okay, don't worry, the money is coming. The money will come in these months. These are my high cash months because you've learned to read your patterns. And you know that those
Mhm.
are the months when you're going to be making the most amount of money.
Oh, so many beautiful tips already. Thank you so much. 10 minutes full of wisdom. I love it. And for me, for example, you're right. Like when I started having like an app on my phone, when I added that, where I added my expenses and then how much money coming in, only the fact that I was like adding those numbers and seeing them with my eyes,
Mhm.
exactly as you were saying, like helped me have more money, because instead of like mindlessly spending, avoiding to look into my bank account, hoping for money to come in, I was like seeing them and adding them on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. So we don't need to add a lot of pressure of, I need to do this every day. Just make it fun. Like I was associating with a positive trigger, like doing my accounting while listening to music,
I
or
love that.
eating a cookie after that, to really associate the bookkeeping, which was negative for me and boring, to something positive. And with the high and lows months, uh, in the coaching field, is this like this pattern, for all
Mhm.
coaches, because we launch things and we make money when we launch things, and then
Mhm.
between launches you may not have any new clients or any new income. So what I learned is to create some sources of passive income that could help me make money between launches and not have these high and lows, because over time these high and lows, there can be really overwhelming for the nervous system and can be really
Yes.
traumatizing. If you have high and lows, you cannot plan a holiday, you cannot buy things, you cannot enjoy life, because you're like, oh my god, when I will make money, or in order for me to make money, I need to do a 1 month launch and be in burnout and
Mhm.
produce all these things so I can have new income coming in. So if you're in the same situation of having high and low months, so I recommend you create a course that can bring you some passive income, or having like a freebie that gets people into your email, that will create like an warm audience for you to have it ready when you want to sell something, or having like flash sales between launches. But not don't let yourself get into this low vibration of worry and anxiety and survival mode, because guess what, this is exactly what will reject even more clients, because you get into this space of need, and I need to make money because I don't have money to pay my bills, and you will start to reject even more money coming in energetically, and also clients, because you are in the place of need instead of desire.
Mhm.
So hope our like insights and expertise helps you with with your money mindset and bookkeeping. And what other like last tool you can offer to someone struggling to bookkeep and making finance less scary for them?
Well, first, I wanted to say that everything you just said, I 100% agree with because,
Thank
especially
you.
in the coaching industry, it's it's peaks and valleys, highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
Launch, make money, don't make money, launch again. And so you get into this cycle of I need to constantly be launching to constantly be making money.
Yes.
And that leads to burnout really, really fast. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, if you are feeling energetically low, that's going to come across and it's going to repel the clients. But when you know your money and you know, okay, I made X amount of money off this launch, that will last me 3 months or however many months because you know your expenses, then you don't have to panic and you don't have to reach that point of burnout. And also, I love that you mentioned having passive income because don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like,
Mm-hmm.
diversify where your money comes from. Start a YouTube channel, make passive income that way. Build a course, make passive income that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just start a second business that's a different thing to do.
Yeah,
Make
cool.
money different that way. Don't just rely on one thing forever and ever and ever. So as you were talking, I was like, yes, I agree with every single thing she is saying. Um, and now
Thank
I
you.
forgot the question that you asked me.
Thank
Another,
you. I think you inspired me when I met you in that mastermind, and you were sharing the same like advice that I am sharing now, and you were one of the mentors, let's say, that inspired me to over time to create this type of business that doesn't feel scary anymore, but feels more safe. I was asking you if you have any other like piece of advice for someone to make finance less scary, because then I want to get into the more personal part and ask you how did you get into this and all those fun stories.
okay, so I have a lot of advice to give people on how to make it less scary, but my number one tip is always, always, always get yourself on accounting software. I don't care which software you choose. There's free options out there, there's paid options out there. If you choose a paid one, it's tax deductible at the end of the year, at least in the US it is. Just get on accounting software because I want you to keep track of everything, of how much money you're bringing in and what your expenses are. And that is, like we've talked about for 17 minutes now, how you are going to reduce the anxiety, how you're going to reduce the burnout and the overwhelm is by knowing the numbers. And how do you know the numbers? By keeping track of them. So that is always my number one piece of advice. I have many more that I could give. That would take 2 or 3 hours of a, you don't want to listen to me for that long, but
Mhm.
that is always my number one piece of advice is get it in some sort of software so that you can track it properly.
And can you recommend some a free one and a paid one so
Mhm.
they can also have some tools to work
Absolutely.
on?
So I don't have personal experience with the free one. I know there's one called Wave Accounting, WAVE,
Mhm.
and I've heard great reviews of it from other entrepreneurs, but I've personally not used it. So I can't personally say it's fantastic, but I've heard good things. I always recommend QuickBooks Online Simple Start as the base software, and that is a paid one, but it's very much worth it in my opinion. And like I said, in the US, it's tax deductible. So it's money that's going to come back to you at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And my experience with this type of software, like for example, in my first year of business, I didn't have one. And you know how you are in the first year of business, like you either buy too much softwares or you don't buy any, and you're like trying all these things.
Yeah.
And I was like giving more of the free stuff because I didn't feel like my work was valuable enough. And I was working more for free than for money. And at the end of the year, I said like, take this type of software and see, like, get all my money in and see how much money I made this year. And when I looked, I made it for an entire year like $4,000.
Oh no.
And I invested in the beginning of that year $10K in my business. So I didn't even got my investment back. So in the second year, I started like adding in every amount that was coming in and monitor my expenses and also invest in a coach and like healing my relationship with money. That's why now I work on money and I specialize on helping entrepreneurs, like working with their money mindset, because I thought that all the rest of my life will be like I will make 4K in my business for a year, and I realized that no, that's not normal. And I started working my mindset, also doing these practical things of having bookkeeping and adding all my like payments. And then after 3 months, like I was already doubling the amount that I did in my first year, like.
That's
And I was
amazing.
like, okay, that's really possible, and there is, like, you can do it. If we did it, if like with a little bit of like overcoming that resistance of looking at numbers, taking a little bit more patience with adding those payments and income to a list,
Mhm.
even on your phone, if that feels more comfortable for you, and working a little bit also with your money mindset to see, why am I resistant to look at numbers?
Mhm.
What's this block that's keeping me from, like maybe hiring someone to teach me how to work with numbers? And all these things, you can overcome this, maybe financial block that you're now, or fear of looking at money, or avoiding to look in your bank account. So it's really possible. Thank you so much for sharing all these beautiful tools. And I'm really curious, like, how my first favorite story is, how was your money story growing up? Like, what type of limiting beliefs did you inherited about around money? How were your parents' relationship with money, which we inherit as well at the subconscious level?
Mhm.
So I'm really curious.
Okay. So my parents owned a small business from the time I was 7 years old. They ran it out of I lived in Florida at the time, so it was called our Florida room, which is really just your family room. But that's what they call it in Florida. And so they had their office there, and that business grew over, I would say, 3 or 4 years, to the point where they were hiring employees. We had people always coming in and out of our house to come work. And I saw that as a child, and I saw them build this business literally from nothing. It started in my parents' bedroom, like they just had a computer in there. Um, and then it just grew to this business. And I saw that my mom was home with me. She was able to pick me up from school. She was able to take me to school. She was able to help me with my homework. She was there, even if she didn't make dinner, she was still there at dinner time. So, if we ordered pizza or something. Um, so I always had an affinity toward being an entrepreneur because I saw it from such an early age. Um, and actually, that's how I started bookkeeping, was for my parents' business when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Summer vacation, they were like, okay, here's the checkbook. Write out the checks for all these bills that are due, put them all in this ledger, green ledger paper, because there was no software back then.
Mhm.
Um, I'm older than I look. So there was no accounting software back then. So it was all on paper. And that's how I learned. And I didn't have a fear of money because it was just a very natural thing for me to look at money coming into a business and then immediately leaving it to pay the
Mhm.
bills, because I was lucky enough to have that at such an early age, to view how a business functions. It makes money, it spends money. It makes money, it spends money. Oh, in order to make this money, we have to pay this person that came and worked for 20 hours this week. We have to pay this other person that came and worked for 10 hours this week. So I saw that that money that the business made did not actually all belong to my parents. It wasn't what they made. And that's another thing that I tell people to distinguish all the time. The money that your business makes is not your money, it's your business's money. And you have to
Mhm.
separate yourself from the business because of that money, you have to pay business expenses and then you pay yourself.
Mhm.
So I tell people a lot of the time that you have to think of yourself as two different entities. Your business,
Mhm.
I'm holding up my hands like you guys can see me and I know you can't. Your business and you. You're two different things. So I saw that. But I my family came to the US as refugees. So they came with literally nothing. A suitcase is what they came with to this country. And so always I heard you have to save money. You don't, waste food. You don't waste this. You don't waste that. You save. And so that's always been instilled in my brain too. And so I've always come from a place of save, save, save. So that's one money block that I have had to work on. Saving is excellent, but you have to know when to spend too. So if you just save, 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 yeah, that's great, but you have to spend in learning. You have to spend in bettering yourself. You have to spend in bettering your business to make it bigger if that's what you want, if you want your business to grow. Because you don't know everything. Nobody does.
Mhm.
And so you have to know when to hire something out, when to invest in a course so that you can learn how to do something that you don't know how to do, but that will make you a better business owner. And not just, I don't mean spend in like, oh, I'm going to buy 100 pens today and 100 notebooks. Like that's frivolous spending and that's not going to get you anywhere. Um, but that's a money block that I did have to work on was
Mhm.
realizing that I could spend money because the return on the money was going to be bigger than what I just spent.
Mhm. So
So,
your way of working with this was like realizing that investing money is like when you invest in yourself, you will make
mhm,
those money, you will make money back.
yeah.
And um, my other question was like, um, what other things did you do to work with this limiting belief that to save money, you need to save money to enjoy?
So I worked with a couple of coaches earlier this year actually. And more so than anything because I'm the type of person that I don't like people to tell me what to do. So even if somebody is talking at me like you need to do this instead of this or
Mm-hmm.
you need to do that instead of that, I'm like, I don't really want to listen to you. That's just
Yeah.
me. I don't I'm like, this is my business, not your business, which is a
Mm-hmm.
really bad attitude to have. But that's just how my brain works. And so it took a lot of inner work for me. It
Mm-hmm.
having the advice in my brain and then using it when I felt ready to. So it was a lot of like, I need to really sit back, analyze why, ask myself questions, which I always tell people like, ask yourself the questions and figure out what was holding me back. And that's when I did the work, but I did it myself because I'm just weird that way.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
I'm strange. So I like to do
No,
things in my own way on my own time.
I feel like, having this rebellious type of personality, it's what, it's the type of personality that would revolutionize things, like you being out of the box and trying things differently and in your own way will make your own, your own method that will help people like enrich their lives. So it's not necessarily good or bad that you listen to advice. I'm the same. Like I love more of the business coach type of the business coach that ask me, like they offer me some guidance or strategy and
Mhm.
ask me, does this feels good for you, or which one of this is more suitable for your needs? Instead
Yes.
of until our next session, you need to do these 5 steps. No, that's really boring. Like, I don't want 5 steps. I want you
Hmm.
to guide me to my own truth and my own
Yeah.
way. And the second thing regarding the save money, how do you recommend someone to, also spend money? Someone who has this, like money block, like I need to
Hmm.
save money all the time, and they like block themselves from spending. How can someone, spend with pleasure? My way of doing this is like having a budget for pleasure, like having
Hmm.
some money every month to go to massages and like a dinner with my partner, investing in something fun. Like, I have a certain amount of money every month to do this. What's your how did you do this?
So I absolutely recommend that for your personal finances. Definitely. Set yourself a budget for going out to eat if that's what you like to do. Set yourself a budget for shopping if that's what you like to do. In business, however, my advice is different. In businesses, if your expenses do not fall into one of two categories, you probably shouldn't purchase it. So if it's not something that you need, like paper or ink or a stapler, but ask yourself, do you actually need that office supplies, or are you buying it just because you think it's cute and pretty? If
Hmm.
you need it, buy it. If it's going to pay you back in some way, get it. So if it's investing into a coach that you know that what you're going to get out of it is going to come back to you, like what you put into it, what you learn from it, what you get from it is going to help your business grow, do it, invest in it. If it's going to be a work trip that you need to take, for example, to go to a conference that you know that you're going to gain knowledge from, do it. Great. But I always say if it's going to return you money in your business or if it's something you need to conduct business, those are the only two times that I spend money in my business. Personal life is a completely different thing. Absolutely budget for fun. But in business, I those are my two questions.
Cool. So simple. Like, really, every time we have to make a money decision, we have to have some tools that are really simple. It's not 5 steps to, make a decision. Usually, decisions with money are really impulsive. So, in order
Hmm.
to work with them, we need to have like a really practical tool. So, this, like, two questions are really powerful. Is it something that you need, and is it something that will make your business grow? It's pretty simple to
Yeah.
keep in mind whenever you want to buy that pink pen with a with a unicorn.
Now, listen, if it's something you need, there's no reason it can't be cute.
Hmm.
So, if you need a fan and you want to get the pink one with the unicorn, go for it.
Yeah.
If you just want a pink unicorn fan but you don't need it, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. That's it. It's more of that the intention behind what
Hmm.
behind your spending behaviors and your awareness. Like, are you aware of your spendings, or are you buying impulsively? Like a pattern that I saw, because I work mostly with women, and we have our menstrual cycles, we
Hmm.
have our hormones, or we have high and lows, and when we are like more emotional, then we will go on the internet and buy everything that stands in our
Yes.
way, so are you buying when you more impulsively when you are like more hormonal or more anxious, or when you feel unsafe with money, then you become safe by controlling them and spending them? Like, it's really important to take a step back and ask questions. The same Francis shared with
Yeah.
us earlier. Questions are everything. And did you have like another core belief that showed up for you and you needed to work on, maybe from your childhood or adolescence, and even from previous jobs, that were for you a block in
Hmm.
healing your relationship with money?
Sure. I worked in nonprofit in the finance department of nonprofit for 8.5 years. And I don't know how it is in other countries if nonprofits are a thing in other countries, but
Mhm.
in the US, nonprofits are notorious for not having a lot of money. Their
Mhm.
budgets are not large. They rely on funding from government and from donors. And so employees don't get paid a lot of money. And not only do they not get paid a lot of money, but they have a lot more work than what employees should have. And
Mhm.
so coming out of that long of working, I mean, when I was in the office, it was 40, but then when it was quarantine, I was working 50, 55 hours, sometimes 60 hours a week, making the exact same salary. And so it was the mindset of, oh, this is what I'm worth. This is my worth. Oh, I could never make more than this because this is what I've been told that I'm worth.
Mhm.
For 8.5 years, this is what I've been told I'm worth. And so that was another big block that I had to overcome when I started my business was charging prices that were actually commensurate to what I was doing. They had to reflect the work and the 20 years of knowledge and experience that I have because something might take somebody 30 minutes to do because they have the experience and know what they're doing. And it might take somebody who's inexperienced 2 hours to do that thing. And that's another thing. I had to learn to not charge on how long something takes me, the amount of time, but
Mhm.
rather what I'm doing and the project that I'm working on. So that
Mhm.
was a huge one actually that I had to work through was the worth, my self-worth, the worth of my work,
Mhm.
and that the time that it takes me doesn't define how much work I actually did.
Yes. That's why I ask you, like, any other financial blocks, not only from your childhood, because we believe that only from our parents we got their own
Mhm.
money stories, but we formed a lot of conditioning from our previous jobs. And
Yeah.
especially if you worked for years, I worked for 8 years, as you did, in
Mhm.
advertising agencies. Like, I was an art director and I was working like 12 hours per day, even over the weekends, and they didn't pay us for the overtime. They didn't pay us for the weekend. We only have like a had like a fixed salary, and you were working more just because they had more deadlines and projects. So I
Yeah.
learned that, I need to give free stuff. I need to work for free to have a job, and to,
Mhm.
like, my salary was in Romania was $1,000 per month. So when I started my business, and I was like having my first client, asking $1,000 for 4 session was like, I'm going to be arrested and I'm going to, like, something bad will happen to me. How can I do this? So for the first year in my business, I asked only $100 for 2 hour session, because like that was more than I was making into my nine to
Mhm.
five. But I was not comparing, like I was not doing the right comparison, because I was comparing a different job with a different expertise. So as you said,
Mhm.
like, not putting a price on our time, because what about the time we learned doing what
Mhm.
we do now? What about those years, when we learn? I graduated from psychology. I have a master's degree in business psychology. So what about those years that contributed for me to have a session in 90 minutes and give you this advice and help you with your business and money mindset? So
Yeah.
yeah, I had to do not only the conditioning and healing from my childhood, and also from my previous 9 to 5 jobs. So if you
Yeah.
are in the same, like if you worked in corporate and now you're leading your own business, be really careful and like take this higher perspective and look in your business. Where are you bringing some money mindsets or tendencies, or even, acting like a bad CEO with yourself? Like you can get into this place of, like, punishing yourself for not working all the day, or
Mhm.
feeling not good enough, criticizing yourself. And when you are doing this in your business, you are just acting like your previous boss in the corporate job, so
Yes.
let's be some good CEOs with ourselves, and
Yeah.
let's release all those old stories, because the corporate job, that's why we left that environment, because we
Mhm.
wanted to create something like with a positive energy that can improve the world, and we can share our expertise, also making money. So
Yep.
let's normalize that.
And another thing to take into consideration, going back to bookkeeping, when you think of what you were making as an employee, you cannot think that you can make that as a business owner too. You need to erase that completely from your mind, because what you make, what you have to charge for a session with you, for example, has to not only pay you as the employee of your business, but it has to cover any rent that you might have to pay. It has to cover software that you have to pay for. It has to cover any business insurance that you have. It has to cover the office supplies that you need. It has to cover every business expense that it takes to be able to provide that session. So it's not just what you get paid, it's everything else too that you have to pay for as a business owner. So, sure, like, yeah, you might be making more than you did at your previous job, but if it's not covering everything that it takes to do that session, then you're not charging enough.
Hmm. Yes, praise to
Yeah.
that.
Well, and that's just like, the basic things that you can see. It's not even to mention like you were saying, all the education, the years of experience, the years, the knowing how to, the providing the value, all of that, it's worth so much more than we are like ingrained in our brains when we come out of a 9 to 5. Like we just think, oh, my time, one of my hours is worth X amount of dollars. And we need to
Hmm.
like erase that, go away.
Exactly, and a cool technique, and we are going to end with this. Yesterday, I worked with one of my clients that she's an artist, and she was like having this conditioning around how her art like doesn't value too much money, and like
Mhm,
I made her make a list with why her art is valuable, why her art, and you can do the same list why you deserve that amount of money per session, why you deserve to have high ticket offering. And I invite you to write with as many details as you can, like she wrote things like, because I studied for 15 years, because I made hundreds of paintings, because I worked with my fears, because I keep showing up, like, right, because I buy the paintings and everything and all the tools that I need to actually paint. Like, do the same list, and when you see all the reasons why, because usually what happens, because of the not good enough wound, or the fear to charge, or the conditioning in the previous jobs, you don't think that you may say that you want to like have high ticket clients, but when they are like coming into your space and you're about to share your price, like you are afraid, where you block
mhm,
yourself, where you're like um, downsizing your price. And make a list and write there all the reasons why your work is valuable, and why it's worth, like, why you deserve to ask for that amount of money, and all the reasons possible for why. And once you read this list and read it every day or before like asking for that price, you will start to reinforce this idea that your work is worthy of massive compensation, and you will prove to yourself that you deserve to ask for that amount of money.
mhm.
So, yeah, usually I do my podcast for half an hour, but I learned so many things today, and we had so many like valuable tools, and I hope like you really got something powerful from our talk today. And how can our listeners, either work with you so you can help them with their finances, or learn from you how they make their own finances?
Yeah, absolutely. I offer a free 30-minute session to anybody who needs it. So if you have
Cool.
questions about your business or you want to talk about bookkeeping needs, I can put give you the link to put in the show notes below
Perfect.
for that calendar, and anybody could schedule one, and I'm happy to speak to anybody.
Oh, that's so nice. So they can have more of like a tailored one-to-one view of how your work can help them. That's
Correct.
nice. Cool. I'm sure that Francis will help you, and especially with money. It's really good to invest from the beginning because money not investing in you, especially on the money mindset and bookkeeping, in time can cost you money. So
Mhm.
if you invest them in time, will bring you money because you'll have the right mindset and the right tools to have your bookkeeping like capacity and ability, and also to not feel scared by numbers anymore and you're not and make finances feel fun for you. So
Mhm.
that's really cute that you offer this. I'm going to add all the links in the description section. Thank you so much for listening to us today. And thank you, Francis, for sharing your wisdom and your expertise in this podcast. And I am waiting you for another talk in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Me as well. Thank you. And see you on the next episode.